Redwood went round to Bensington about 11 the next morning with the second editions of 3 evening papers in his hand. 2 men stung near Charter. They ought to let us smoke out that mess. They really did. It's their own fault. It's their own fault, certainly, said Redwood. Have you heard anything? Redwood, he said. Did they say much about us? Not so much as I should expect. They don't denounce us at all. Not a bit. But, on the other hand, they don't back up what I point out must be done. I've written to the Times, explaining the whole thing. You take the Daily Chronicles, said Bensington, and the Times was a long reader on the subject. A very high class, well-written reading between the lines, It's pretty clear that the Times considers that it is useless to mince matters. And something, indefinite of course, has to be done at once. Otherwise, still more undesirable consequences, for more wasps and stings. Thoroughly statement-like article. And meanwhile, this bigness is spreading in all sorts of ugly ways. Precisely. I wonder if Skinner was right about those big rats. Oh no, that would be too much, said Redwood. By the by, he said, with a slightly lowered voice. How does she? Cousin Jane? She simply knows nothing about it. Doesn't connect us with it and won't read the articles. Giant wasps, she says. I haven't the patience to read the papers. That's very fortunate, said Redwood. I suppose. Mrs. Redwood? No, said Redwood. Just at present it happens, she's terribly worried about the child. He keeps on. Growing. Put on 41 ounces in 10 days. Weighs nearly 4 stone. And only 6 months old. Naturally, rather alarming. Healthy. Vigorous. His nurse is leaving because he kicks so forcibly. And everything, of course, shockingly outgrown. Everything, has had to be made fresh. Clothes and everything. Perambulator, light affair. Broke one wheel and the youngster had to be brought home on a milkman's hand truck. Yes, quite a crowd. Proud at first, his mother. Not now, naturally alarmed. Feels the thing can't be wholesome. I imagined you were going to put him on diminishing doses. I tried it. Didn't it work? Howls in the ordinary way. The cry of a child is loud and distressing. It is for the good of the species that this should be so. But since he has been on the food, regarding his fingers with more resignation than he had hitherto displayed, practically, the thing must come out. People will hear of this child, connected up with our hens and things. And the whole thing will come round to my wife. How will she take it? I haven't the remotest idea. It is difficult, said Mr. Bensington, to form any plan certainly. He removed his glasses and wiped them carefully. It is another instance, he generalized, of the thing that is continually happening. We, if indeed I may presume to the adjective scientific men, we work of course, always for a theoretical result, a purely theoretical result, but incidentally we do set forces in operation, new forces. We mustn't control them, and nobody else can. Practically, Redwood, the thing is out of our hands. We supply the material, and they, said Redwood, turning to the window, get the experience. So far as this trouble down in Kent goes, I am not disposed to worry further. unless they worry us. Exactly. And if they like to muddle about with solicitors and pettifoggers and legal instructions and weighty considerations of the tomfool order until they have got a number of new gigantic species of vermin well established, well, things have always been in a muddle, Redwood. Redwood traced a twisted, tangled line in the air. And our real interest lies at present with your boy. Redwood turned about and came and stared at his collaborator. What do you think of him, Bensington? You can look at this business with a greater detachment than I can. What am I to do about him? Go on feeding him. And then he'll grow. He'll grow, as far as I can calculate from the hens and the wasps, to the height of about 35 feet, with everything in proportion. And then what'll he do? That, said Mr. Bensington, is just what makes the whole thing so interesting. Confound it, man, think of his clothes. And when he's grown up, said Redwood, he'll be only one solitary Gulliver in a pygmy world. Mr. Bensington's eyes shone over his gold-rimmed glasses. Why solitary, he said, and repeated more darkly, why solitary? But you don't propose. I said Mr. Bensington, with the self-complacency of a man who has produced a good, significant saying. Why solitary? Meaning that one might bring up other children? Meaning nothing beyond my inquiry. Redwood began to walk about the room. Of course, he said, one might, but still, what are we coming to? Bensington evidently enjoyed his line of high intellectual detachment. The thing that interests me the most, Redwood, all of this, is to think that his brain at the top of him will also, so far as my reasoning goes, be 35 feet or so above our level. What's the matter? Redwood stood at the window and stared at a news placard on a paper cart that rattled up the street. What's the matter? Repeated Bensington, rising. Redwood exclaimed violently. What is it? Said Bensington. Get a paper, said Redwood, moving toward the door. Why? Get a paper. Something I didn't quite catch. Gigantic rats. Rats? Yes, rats. Skinner was right after all. What do you mean? How the deuce am I to know until I see a paper? Great rats, good Lord. I wonder if he's eaten. He glanced for his hat and decided to go hatless. As he rushed downstairs, 2 steps at a time, he could hear along the street the mighty howlings to and fro of the hooligan paper sellers making a boom. Audible affair in Kent, audible affair in Kent. Doctor eaten by rats, audible affair, audible affair. Rats eaten by stupendous rats, full particulars, audible affair. Cossar was a large-bodied man with gaunt and inelegant limbs, carefully placed at convenient corners of his body, and a face like a carving, abandoned in an early stage as altogether too uncompromising for completion. His nose had been left square, and his lower jaw projected beyond his upper. Few people considered him handsome. His voice was gruff and had a quality of bitter protest. He wore a gray cloth jacket suit and the silk hat on all occasions. He paid his cabman and came panting resolutely up the steps, a copy of the paper clutched about the middle like Zeus's thunderbolt in his hand. "Skinner," Bennington was saying, regardless of his approach. "Nothing about him?" said Redwood. "Bound to be eaten, both of them. It's too terrible." "Oh, hello, Cussar." "This your stuff?" asked Cussar, waving the paper. "Well, why don't you stop it?" he demanded. "Nonsense," he cried. "I knew you chaps would fumble this. What are you to do? Why, I'll tell you. Go up the street to the gunsmith's, of course." "Why?" "For guns. Yes, there's only one shop. Get 8 guns. Rifles, not elephant guns. No, too big. Not army rifles, too small. Say it's to kill a bull. Say it's to shoot buffalo, see? Eh? Rats? No. How the deuce are they to understand that? Because we want 8. Get a lot of ammunition. Don't get guns without ammunition. No, take a lot in a cab to, where's the place? Ershot? Charing Cross? Then there's a train. Well, the first train that starts after 2. Think you can do it? All right. License? Get 8 at a post office. Of course, gun licenses, you know, not game. Why? It's rats, man. You, Bennington, got a telephone? Yes. I'll ring up 5 of my chaps from Ealing. Why 5? Because it's the right number. Where are you going, Redwood? Get a hat. Nonsense. Have mine. You want guns, man, not hats. Got money? Enough. All right, off you go. Where's the telephone? Bennington. Bennington wheeled about obediently and led the way. Cussar used and replaced the instrument. "Then there's the wasps," he said. "Sulfur and nitrate will do that." "Obviously. Plaster of Paris. You're a chemist. Where can I get the sulfur?" "By the ton. In portable sacks." "What for?" "Why, to smoke out the rest, of course." "I suppose it must be sulfur, eh? You're a chemist." "Sulfur best." "Eh? Yes. I should think sulfur. Nothing better." "Right, that's your job." "That's all right. Get as much sulfur as you can. Saltpeter to make it burn." Send to Charing Cross right away. See that they do it. Follow it up. Anything? He thought for a moment. "Plaster of Paris. Any sort of plaster. Bung up the nest holes. You know. That I'd better get." He stretched a vast hand towards a cab, and Bennington, still hatless, paddled down the steps and prepared to mount.